Good morning, everybody. Uneducated Economist here. I'm going to do a really quick video because I got to go into work, but I was just reading this article with Christine Lagarde, and she's talking about the unwarranted rise in yields, and I really got to thinking about that. Now, Christine Lagarde, she's like, over there at the European Central Bank, and that unwarranted rise in yields, it really got me thinking about what I had said about the Federal Reserve allowing interest rates to rise on purpose to try and kind of alleviate some of the pressure that's coming inside of the stock market, inside of the real estate market, the bond market. They're trying to get some of that pressure off so it doesn't just have this blow off top. And it really kind of almost solidifies it when I hear like Christine Lagarde saying this is an unwarranted rise, meaning that it's basically being allowed or done on purpose. I mean, if it's allowed, then it's done on purpose. So I knew it. I knew the Federal Reserve was doing this, and I can only assume that no matter what they are saying, it doesn't matter what they say. From here on out, they are going to allow the interest rates to rise until they finally get the pressure relief, or at least maybe stabilize prices for a period of time. I mean, that's what I kind of get out of it, especially when Christine Lagarde says unwarranted. I mean, that's to me, that's basically saying that you're doing it on purpose. That's what I hear out of that. And now that also got me thinking, it was like, when was the last time you ever heard of anybody saying something about currency wars? See, this has got me thinking here. I got to go into work, but listen to this. You haven't heard much about currency wars, right? But you have heard a lot about inflation. Okay. If the dollar was allowed to strengthen during a time when we have this inflation kind of scenario taking place, but it's not really inflation, but more of a supply chain shock. So the constraint inside of the supply chain is really what's causing the interest or causing the prices to rise, but not the inflation like everybody is anticipating. So if you allow the dollar to strengthen against the basket of world currencies out there, that'll make imports coming in from foreign countries a lot cheaper. This cheaper foreign imports will help to alleviate some of the supply chain shocks that are taking place, which is causing the prices to increase. So hopefully, with the rising dollar going up against a basket of world currencies during a time of supply chain shock, which would cause the prices to increase, everybody anticipating inflation, but the dollar strengthening would cause the imports to be cheaper, hopefully keeping the inflation in check. Or the prices in check. I shouldn't say inflation, because inflation's already here. To even argue about inflation is like, is like not even like an argument anymore. Inflation is the expansion of money and credit. That has already happened. What we have not seen yet is the price increases like the Federal Reserve would like to see in order to establish their inflation expectation goals. So that's a very strange kind of concept, but to think about it is that the Federal Reserve is not necessarily looking at prices, but what the expectation of prices is going to be and what that expectation is going to do to the future prices. It's not necessarily about future prices, because future prices could be supply chain shocks. It could be a lot of things. But the future expectation of inflation is really what's driving markets. And that's a very hard concept for a lot of people to wrap their head around. It took me a long time to try and wrap my head around that as well. And a lot of people don't look at it like that, but that's the way I see it, because that's what the Federal Reserve seems to look at as well. Is not necessarily the inflation itself, right? But the inflation expectation, because the inflation's already here. There's no point in looking for inflation. It's here. It's the inflation expectation. It's what people are going to be doing with their money. Are they going to take it out of the bank and go do something with it, or are they going to leave it locked up? Okay, inflation expectation, very much different. But yeah, I'm going to leave a link down in the description for that article to Christine Lagarde saying this is an unwarranted rise in yields. And that's what I thought about. It was just like, man, an unwarranted rise in yields. That means the dollar is strengthening against a basket of world currencies, making the imports coming into this country cheaper, helping to alleviate some of the supply chain shock that's going to be taking place, which is going to cause the prices to rise. But that's not necessarily the inflation, since inflation's already here. All right, I got to go to work. Uneducated Economist, you guys let me know.